No credit card information, no bank account information, no number of kids in your home. Nothing like that is coming over our communications network. Once we get that back into a data center, we marry that up with your account information so we can produce a bill for you. We will never, and we never have, sold data to third parties. So I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but the truth is, I've been with CPS Energy 21 years, and I know that years before that, we don't do that. We are community owned. We have a responsibility to our customers to keep your data secure and private, and quite honestly, we do that the best way we can. Smart meters are an invasion of privacy. I still don't know how it's an invasion of privacy if what it's doing is reading your meter information, which is what we're using to produce your bill. Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that smart meters are going to subdivide your electricity use so finely that you'll be able to tell exactly what is going on in that house as a function of time? Like how many freezers you have, whether you have a swimming pool, what time you go to bed, when you turn on your oven and so forth.
So
wait a minute, please. And this information will be so valuable to third parties, such as people that want to sell things, that there's no way that CPS Energy will be able to avoid selling those data. The names of the people may be taken off. You'll sell aggregate data. You can sell aggregate data by street, by town, by county. Is not that true?
I'm going to say no. It's not true.
It's not true now.
That we would sell that data to a third party.
It's not true now, but it will be.
Well, that's an assumption, but I'm not going to get into that though. But I can tell you that right now, the information that we get from our customers is secure and private. To answer your other point about, isn't it true that we can tell when your blow dryer comes on and when your dishwasher comes on? There are algorithms that can do that, but honestly, CPS Energy does not have the meter set up in that functionality. We already know when the peak of the day is. So it doesn't make sense for us to know what to do at 2 in the morning.
Competitively, we will be forced to do this.
All right. So we can talk a little bit more. Yes, sir. I'll answer your question.
Prior to and subsequent to the installation of a smart meter, how will the smart meter be calibrated against what calibration standard? And then how often will it be recalibrated every so whatever?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that the best I can, but we have the guys here in the room that'd be happy to expand on it. So the meter, when it comes, first of all, the meter, before it leaves the manufacturing facility, has to meet the same standards that any meter does, whether it's wireless or not. There's a certain criteria set up by the American, correct me if I'm wrong, National Standards Institute, right? So there are certain standards that all meters have to meet before they're put out in the field. Once we get those meters, we actually test a batch sample of the meters that come into us. If there's a percentage of meters that don't test appropriately, am I correct? The whole batch is returned?
That's correct.
Yes. So the whole batch is returned. So we're testing those internally as well as from the manufacturer. As far as your other question, the calibration, I'm going to refer to them once I'm through to address that maybe there, or if the co group wants the answer, we can do it up here as well. But
That would be in particular subsequent to the installation, what would the calibration standard?
okay, and we'll get into that in just a second. Write that down so we don't forget what the question was. Yes, sir.
Is there a threat model available for the meter system? And also, as a penetration tester, and I work in the cybersecurity field, I was very much about smart meters, capabilities.
Okay.
I see you say that the data is encrypted and stuff like that, but no one's going to attack it again the line, the source. So, is that stuff available so people look at it and say, yeah, you are protected, the level of encryption you're using? Is it a sweet E? Is it
So again,
RC4?
so again, I know we got what we would consider the platinum level of security. We do have folks in here from the manufacturer, from our partner Silver Screen Network that might be able to answer that question
I'd like
more
to
defined.
answer.
Okay, great. Then Larry, if you don't mind tackling that one after this, we'll get into that. So we do try to have folks available for you to get your answer. Yes, sir.
I'd like to follow up on this gentleman's question.
Okay.
You put a smart meter on his house, and suddenly his the reading on the meter says that his older meter wasn't reading correctly.
Okay.
Isn't it true that you're going to then bill him retroactively for energy that wasn't paid for?
Not in all cases. It really depends on a case-by-case basis. We have customer service here that can expand on how we would do that. But you bring up a very interesting point. you know, there's an assumption that when we replace your meter, your bills are gonna go up. There's an assumption. KSAT story, how many of you watched the KSAT story? So what was the story about? Customer got a smart meter, her bills went up. There was 2 customers they interviewed. One did not have a smart meter, but thought she did. The other one had a smart meter for only 2 weeks of a 4-week billing cycle, and her 2 weeks without the smart meter was higher than her 2 weeks with the smart meter. So don't always believe what you hear on the news, right? Because sometimes they don't tell you the whole story. And I spent an hour and a half with this reporter specifically pointing out the fact that this customer you're coming to with me about doesn't have a smart meter. So why are they saying the smart meter is causing it? Your hand went up, sir?
Well, I guess the question I would have to follow up though is, that's not the whole picture, because there are more than just 2 people who have complained to CPS about the charges, whether you call them truing up,
Right.
or whether you call them, whatever other euphemism CPS wants to give to it. Bottom line, it's true,
Okay.
is it not, that there have been numerous people who've had these smart meters installed, and then the effect has been that their monthly bills have gone up.
So I'll tell you what is
That's a
true.
statement.
So I'll tell you what is true.
No,
Every year,
Yes or no?
that's a true statement, correct?
people do call and say their bills are higher in the
No, I'm
summer.
not saying
That is a
that's
true
wrong.
statement.
I'm not
Some of
saying
those
it's
customers
wrong.
do have smart meters, yes.
Excuse me, you're making it sound like the customers who are complaining are either ignorant or are lying to you. And what I'm telling you is that that's not true. In fact, the opposite is true, that people have called after having these smart meters and registered complaints, and those complaints have been found to be accurate. And then CPS's response to that has been, well, we're truing it up. In other words, you were getting away with cheaper energy, and so now we're capturing what you didn't pay, shame on you. Or, well, we're sorry, you're right, your energy increase is more, and the onus is on you to disprove that, right?
So I don't know that the onus is, first of all, let me address this. I don't know the specifics about the folks you're talking about and what their account history is
I'm
like.
not asking you specific people, I'm just asking you, is it a true statement? These people, the CPS has found their complaints to be true, but you then put the burden on them to conduct an audit or to otherwise disprove what the quote-unquote smart meter is reading.
Right.
That's a true statement.
So what I can tell you is, if a customer calls us today and says, hey, I got a new smart meter installed and my bills have just gone up, our energy advisors are trained to talk to the customers and educate them a little bit on why summer bills go up. At the end of that conversation, if the customer says, I still believe it's a smart meter that caused my bill to go up, we will issue a test and go out there and test that meter and see what the accuracy reading level is. If that reading level is at 99.9% or greater, what else can we do for that customer if that meter is being accurate? That meter is accurate. We can't do anything else for that customer at that point. We are community owned. We have a responsibility to the other customers in our community to collect any revenue that maybe have been lost.
And I think that's the point, is what this truly is. This isn't an issue about trying to be more responsive when there's a power outage. And as far as I'm aware, as soon as there's a power outage, to CPS's credit, y'all are on it like that. And it's because most people immediately report power outages. So these things about, well, we're installing these smart meters so that we can be more responsive. So the true thing is, it's a revenue generator. You're trying to figure out a way to capture more revenue. I mean, and that's what you just acknowledged.
So if that was true, we wouldn't need a smart meter. We could change the algorithm in the back office. Honestly, we wouldn't need a smart meter to do that.
Then how about letting us opt in? If the thing is so wonderful, why not let people opt in instead of forcing people to pay money to opt out?
It goes back to the same thing, you get good service at a restaurant, people don't necessarily call back and say, I had great service at a restaurant. They just don't do those types of calls. So as a benefit to our customers, we know, and I'll get to the number here in just a little bit, I'm going to skip through these to show you the amount of installations. Almost 375,000 electric meters have been installed. Look at the amount of opt-outs that we've had. 746 opt-outs. 0.21%, sir. What that tells me is that customers that are getting the smart meter, here's a web portal that's available to them. We've had 107,000 customers go into a web portal because they're generally interested in how much energy they're using and what they can do to help control their costs.
But you gotta pay $240 a year to opt out.
If you want to opt out, yes, sir, that's the cost of recouping the charge for someone to go out there, travel, gas, fuel, time and labor, vehicle maintenance, things of that nature. So we haven't built in any additional revenue. It's a break-even cost for us at $20. Yes, maybe we rounded it up a few cents, but it's still a break-even cost for us. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why can't we read our own meters like I did in Houston, East Lighting and Power?
Okay.
They send a card in to you, and y'all check it once a year to be sure everything's accurate.
That's a great question. We do that today. Customers have the option, but those are set out for rural areas to read the
But we
meters.
still have to pay $20 if we don't want them to become smart meters.
Well, we're still gonna have to go out there and eventually do a read to it. Yes, we're gonna have to make sure that the reads that we're
You
getting,
don't have to go every month. You don't have to go every month.
no,
And I'm not gonna screw y'all in any way. I'm gonna read my meter and put down where everything is. We used to do it in Houston every month. There was never a problem. Never a problem.
right. So that's not our business practice. That's just not how we do it in San Antonio. We read our meters every month, in the times that we can, it's an estimated bill. But our practice is to read meters. Yes, ma'am.
In reference to his questions about the opting out, are you familiar with House Bill 3421?
I'm not, but we have someone from our, formerly state legislative office who might be familiar with it.
Okay, well, I have a copy of it here if anybody would like to look at it.
What-
Okay.
sorry,
It's
what was
going, House Bill 3421.
Right.
Being introduced by Representative Bonham of Brazoria. And if this bill passes, then it will be illegal for anyone in the state of Texas, as well as many other states who are passing these laws, to charge anyone a surcharge if they want to opt out of
Okay.
this. So,
So I'm not familiar with it. Kathy, I don't know if you're familiar with it, are you?
I am. I'm happy to visit with you on that.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
All right, very quickly, let me just tell you where we're at, and we'll get into some more questions and answers.
So,
Yes, sir.
I have another question.
Yes, sir, please.
Related to this gentleman's question.
Okay.
Is it not true that smart meters measure at least 2% more energy than a properly calibrated analog meter?
That's quite honestly the first time I've ever heard that, because smart meters are an accurate meter, just like an analog would be when it was first rolled out.
That is a specification on smart meters. That's one of the things that the manufacturers of smart meters use to sell these things. 2% is a minimum, and that's built into the meter.
So let's take a look at this graph real quick, and it's available on your FAQs.
I too would like to make a comment based on what this gentleman said about CPS being a revenue generator.
Okay.
And that is that CPS Energy this year is sending to the coffers of the city of San Antonio $336 million. It's 31% of their
Okay.
general fund. Now, I understand that, you know, CPS needs to make some money to pay the bills and such, but it has become a cash cow for the city of San Antonio. And for those of us in Shavano Park, we're not in San Antonio. It's not going into the coffers of the city of Shavano Park. Our bills, some of that money is going to San Antonio instead of here. And the other thing is regarding how few people have opted out, anyone who looks at your, it's not an opt-out form, it's actually a smart meter exchange program enrollment form.
Right.
This is so confusing, and I'll be raising this issue in a little bit, because I want to get some specific information regarding this. There is no box that can be checked that simply says, I want to keep my current analog meter.
Right, and I'll tell you why.
You're forced in, yes.
Okay, let me tell you why. If you have a box available to you that says, I'm going to keep my analog meter, and in 10 years we don't have access to an analog meter anymore, you're going to hold us accountable to what you sign. I signed a paper that says I'm keeping my analog meter. Here it is, it's almost a contract. But we can't get you an analog meter. That's why it's not on there. So, and then John Leal can answer the question specific to the revenues going to the city of San Antonio. So, if you've got questions about that. Yes, sir.
I'd like to follow up on this true-up
Sure.
concept.
Okay.
Is that really happening?
Raul, do you know of any account specifically that we've had to do that on?
No.
Raul works with our customer service. He gets these calls on a daily basis. Customers are calling continuously about a variety of topics. One of them is the smart meter and the billing issues. So let me just explain true up. If we were replacing a analog meter with another analog meter, because that previous meter was what we call a dead meter or a slow meter, yes, naturally you'd get a true up. Even if it has nothing to do with a smart meter. It has to do with normal business practices of any utility company. So if we pull your analog meter and replace it with an analog meter, the new analog meter is not working, but the previous one wasn't, we're going to recapture that. We're going to capture that revenue. Yes, sir.
I don't understand what that means.
Okay, so I will let the expert explain it for you. He'll be available to talk to you exactly what that means. But it just basically means that if you've got a meter existing on your property that is slow because it's a mechanical meter and over time, just like a vehicle, over time it's not going to be as efficient as it was when you bought it brand new. So if you have a meter installed at your residence and over time, 20, 30, 40 years, it slows down or it's dead, and we've got quite a number of those meters out in the field today. They're technically not even working anymore. So customers are getting bills that are $10 a month, right? And to them, it's like, that's a great bill. Who wouldn't want a $10 a month? But the moment we replace it with a new meter, whether it's a smart meter or not, the moment we replace it and we're now seeing the true consumption, that customer is immediately going to think, oh, you got me, right? Because I hadn't been paying and now this meter's doing something that the other meter wasn't, and that's why I'm paying the difference now. But for the period of time that the meter wasn't functioning, we're going to recapture, on an average, daily usage or monthly usage, we're going to recapture that revenue, that lost revenue. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'll go back.
6 months, Ronald?
Yeah, I used to work for Edison.
6 months.
Depends on the slow meter.
6 months.
But it can go back to 6 months. If you had it for 2 years, we would only go back 6 months.
So your meter was dead for 2 years? It's only 6 months that we're gonna recoup on an average basis.
Yeah, I actually used to run a utility.
Yes, sir.
The Shavano Park water system.
Okay.
And if a meter was bad and we replaced it, we wouldn't bill you for the bad months behind.
Was that utility municipally owned?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So, yes, sir. So we are municipally owned, as you know, and we do that because it's lost revenue. Somewhere down the line, another customer paid for that lost revenue.
Is, does CPS still operate their meter shop that repairs and updates analog meters?
Analog meters, you guys don't repair it. These guys are the meter shop guys. I'm not trying to avoid your question, but they're the guys that work there. So, you want to add that one? Or do you want to?
So if you want, I can answer real quick.
Sure.
The analog meters currently right now, what we do is we can calibrate some of them, but unfortunately some of them are outside the realm of being calibrated. So we do have the capability of doing it.
Very good.
I think the point of my question is that, as you say, smart meters are more accurate than analog. And analog meters, being electromechanical, deteriorate.
So really quick, let me just make one correction to what you just said. Analog meters meet the same requirements and have the same accuracy as a smart meter when they're new. Over time, if they deteriorate, yes, they're not going to be as accurate.
Navigant Consulting did a study sponsored by the Texas Public Utility Commission, and they did a side-by-side comparison of analog and digital meters. And they found that the analog meters, uncharacterized at 2%, a more precise characterization is 1.62% difference. We're aware that analog meters are deficient, but you have the capability, as most utilities have had in the past, to update, exchange, recalibrate, modify, repair those meters. Now, if I have a meter that's only recording $10 a month, and I get a new meter and it goes up to the proper $200, am I responsible for the maintenance of that improperly recorded analog meter, or is the utility responsible for maintaining that? And if you no longer have a shop to maintain these old analog meters, shame on you.
So there's a couple of questions in what you just said. And let me answer one of them. One of them was, first of all, this is from Navigate right here. So the numbers you're putting up and you're telling me about are right here. Okay. So you mentioned that replace, repair, what was the other word you said about analog meters? So
Calibrate.
calibrate. So that's long been our business practice, to do those things, right? But
But the shop is closed now.
But let me ask you something. If you had a flip phone and you took it in to get repaired, and the guy says, we don't have parts for these anymore, but we got these nice smartphones that you can purchase, and this is what you do. That's because there's not the technology to repair that flip phone anymore. Because when I started, I said technology is a changing. It's not what it was 15, 20 years anymore. Analog, you can't go into Best Buy and buy a rotary dial phone. You can't. They're just not available anymore. You know? So, we can't go to Best Buy meters and buy an analog meter anymore.
Nobody's gonna maintain what you have.
We can maintain what we have,
And if
but
you're used giving us a 33-inch yardstick, that is not responsible management of utility.
well, we'll agree to disagree because responsible management of utility is not the here and now. It's the 10 to 15 to 20 years down the
But
line,
it's what you've always done with the old technology.
which is now antiquated.
But we got to run the
So-
new technology.
Hey, can we, I'd make a recommendation that we get back on track, get through your slide pretty quick. This is a good dialogue, but I think you ought to present what you got, make notes of that, and then we can continue this, because I think some of these questions, these subject matter experts ought to come and get the answers as well.
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bill. Thank you, John.
Yes, sir. So I was talking about the amount of customers that have actually taken advantage of the web portal. So back to the scenario of the customer who called about the high bill complaint. One of the pieces of advice we gave her was, hey, have you had a chance to go into the My Energy Account portal, see what your energy use is, and then make a decision on what you want to use going forward? So this particular customer had 3 air conditioner units, right? She went into the web portal, turned off 1 air conditioner unit, and from one day to the next, she dropped her energy consumption in half. How do we know? Because we have a snapshot of her account. She said, this is what happened. So that's the type of benefit that the customers will see. Today, how many of you have ever gone to a gas station, filled up your tank of gas, but you never looked at the cost of price per gallon of gasoline, and you never see how much gallons of gas you put in your vehicle? You just pump it and you drive off. At the end of the month, you get a bill from that gas company that says, hey, you owe us $500. What's your first thought? Whoa, if I had known it was going to be that much, I would have driven less, right? That's where you are today with your electric company. If you don't have insight into your electric bill, you can't make those decisions along the way. You don't know where you are. What is it, the 22nd of September? You don't know how much energy you've used the first 21 days of this month.
Can I respectfully suggest that you stop viewing us as a bunch of knuckle draggers? We have all operated our own air conditioning systems. Many of us have been around much longer than you have. I haven't. I don't have those years of wisdom that you have. But to pass this off as something like, gosh, gee golly, it's so great that I've got this newfangled piece here of equipment, and now I can figure out how to operate my 3rd air conditioner, and I didn't know what I was doing beforehand. It really belies the fact that this has nothing to do with customer service. It really doesn't. There's nothing to do with being responsive to us, and it's really quite offensive. Whatever you're getting paid, you ought to get paid double, because I'm sorry that
My boss is in the room and I hope he's
I'm
listening.
sorry to direct this at you, because you're just the spokesperson. You're not the one whose idea this was. So I apologize.
No, that's okay.
And you're doing a yeoman's job of parroting the speaking points, but it really it's really bothersome. We've got people here who've got genuine concerns. They're smart people, and for you to talk down to them and give these anecdotal stories like somebody had no idea why their bill was $400 one month.
Sure.
They couldn't figure out, oh, maybe if I go to my electronic control on the wall and bump it down from 80 to 77, that makes a big difference, so I won't do it like that until I go to bed. I think most people here know how to operate their system.
So I don't know this audience, sir, and I apologize if you feel like I'm talking down to you. I don't know the individuals in this team, in this room. So when I present this information, I'm speaking to the person in the room that doesn't know these things, right? Because believe it or not, I have done quite a number of these presentations. And I'll be honest with you, the majority of the folks appreciate the fact that I'm spending the time to educate them on some of the basic things that, yes, maybe they should know about. Maybe they should know that if I have it at 60 degrees, it's going to cost me more than at 78 degrees. What I'm trying to tell the folks and educate them with is, these tools were never available to you. They are now.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true. You can right now, you can look at we can go to that thing on the wall right here, and we can look at it, and then we can get a bill from CPS, and we can figure out what the correlation is, and we can now program it to where when we leave the house at 7:30 in the morning, the air kicks off, and when we come home at 5:30 or 6:15, we can program it for the air conditioning to kick on. That's not true. I've never, this is an answer to a question that nobody except
So let me ask you a question.
bureaucrats are asking.
So let me ask you a question. How many kilowatts of energy have you used this month so far?
It's not important to me because I know,
Okay.
I know what.
Is it important to anyone in this room to know how much energy they've used so far this month?
No, it's important to know. what
Nobody?
the bill is.
Nobody cares?
What the bill is.
John, you need to move on.
All right, we're gonna move on according to Bill Hill.
I just actually want to jump in.
Sure.
And I hear your concerns.
It's not a concern.
Well, no, it feels like
It's not a
I don't think we've
It's
been
a real problem. It's a real problem. I don't use some type of bills to try to belittle what I and a lot of my neighbors are saying. It's not a concern.
And so what I will say is, I completely agree. I mean, what I will say is that, the smart meter program, the smart grid initiative is our efforts to try to get to where all the other utilities are, across Texas, across.
Stop trying to make us like the cities where people are fleeing to come here.
No, I'm not
Keep trying to
saying
say,
that. I'm
we
just
want to
saying
be
that-
like San Diego or San Francisco, California. There's a reason why people are leaving there and coming here. It's because we don't follow those policies. Generally, we don't. But for.
So a lot of our customers, our customer service folks are here, and this is a room obviously filled with people who are informed and educated, and that's why we're here. Because we want to have these conversations, we have them in many different areas. But during the summer, we get upwards of 15, 20, 25,000 calls a day about people questioning their bills and we walk them through kind of the processes and what they're doing and usage and energy efficiency tips. So there is a sizable portion of the community that does have questions about that. And I think what the effort of the Smart Grid Initiative is actually to create more communication points with you. It's for you to be able to look at the portal, see the energy you buy, and go, you know what, I can make more important decisions and I have better dialogue with my utility, which is in the past wasn't the case.
The person that you're talking about, who's calling in and who's saying, gosh, gee, Willikers, I have no idea what's going on, is not the same person who's gonna get on their laptop and go to the smart grid thing and start doing this, create an Excel spreadsheet, and then figure out, you're mixing apples and oranges. So the people that you're trying to sell this to as some kind of education tool, respectfully, aren't the same people who are then gonna go to some kind of Excel spreadsheet and type in a bunch of formulas and then figure out and then make all sorts of adjustments. It's not gonna happen. And if it
That's not
does,
for all our customers, sir, but we talk to everybody about what their concerns are. It's based on what their concern is and whether they can download that spreadsheet and do it or not. We can explain and educate customers on one, why is their bill high, based on the circumstances in their home and maybe outside their home, and two, how to conserve energy. But if they're able to take advantage of some of these tools, we're gonna let them know about it, and that's their option to do so.
so if I make an open records request, I'm gonna find a significant volume of documentation where your customers are demanding smart meters. They're calling you and they're complaining because the electric meter is not working for them and the electric wall unit's not working for them. And they're specifically requesting access to greater information so that they can control on an hour-by-hour basis their energy uses. If I make an open records, I'm gonna find it.
No, I'll tell you why. Because we haven't gotten everybody yet. Not everybody knows about this.
Okay, so then let's not do
so-
it yet.
so-
Let's
so-
not do it yet, or let's make it an opt-in as opposed to an opt-out.
You kind of just.
A reminder, guys, the purpose of this is to provide a forum to where you can ask questions and determine whether you want a smart meter yourself, and to hear the counterpoints and the pro points, and you can agree to disagree, whatever. We are not in this forum, sir, going to influence CPS's program as to whether they're going to implement smart meters. I want to make sure that we I want to get through the briefing so you can hear their side, all right? And then you can raise legitimate questions. From there, you can make your own informed decision based upon what you want to do.